A lot of buyers think they know what they can afford because some online calculator told them. Or they're on Zillow one day, they punch in a couple numbers, and lo and behold, they can buy a $1.5 million house. But what you can afford and what you should actually spend are two very different things. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When you're going to buy a house, it doesn't always come down to the sticker price. What's even more important than that is the monthly payment. Most of the people I'm working with are saying things like, I'd be comfortable between $2,500 and $3,000 a month, or my cap is $4,000 a month. They really don't understand how that translates to a $500,000, $600,000, or $700,000 house. And at best, maybe they've gone online, plugged in their income, done a soft credit pull to an online calculator to tell them what they can or can't afford. The reality is, if you're putting your numbers into an online calculator, you're not going to get accurate information. So in today's video, we're talking about how much house can you actually afford. And I'm not here to do this alone. I'm here with Jonathan Esposito of Atomic Mortgage, one of the top mortgage lenders, not just in the area, but in the region, to hear about what exactly people can afford. Just as a reminder, if you don't know me and it's your first time to the channel, my name's David Constant, and I'm a local realtor here, right in Central Connecticut. And I help people just like you every single day make a smooth move to Central CT. If you're thinking about moving in 9 days or 90 days, and you need help, be sure to give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email, and I can't wait to help you make Central Connecticut home. So Jonathan, could you take a second and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Jonathan Esposito, founder and CEO of Atomic Mortgage, based out of West Hartford, Connecticut. And fortunately, because of great partners like you, we have been the #1 mortgage broker in Connecticut for the past few years and one of the top in the country. So
that's amazing. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. So today we're talking about affordability and what that actually means for buyers, because people get stuck on sticker price all the time, right? I'm never going to buy something that's $500,000 or $1 million or whatever. But at the end of the day, we both know what really matters is the monthly price. Right. Okay. So I want to jump right in. When somebody comes to you, when a buyer comes to you and says, "What can I afford?" What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, the team does a really nice job going through a full initial loan consultation. And during that time with them, we talk about, most importantly, what their budget is. We're not saying, great, what price home are you looking for? It is, what are you comfortable spending on a monthly basis? And we sometimes work with them because sometimes they say, I don't know, I'm paying X amount in rent right now, or I don't know, I looked online and it looks like I could afford Y amount per month. So sometimes we have to walk them through it, but it all comes down to their monthly budget and their comfort zone in that way. It's not the price of the house, but it's the monthly payment that we dive into.
Okay, great. So we're going to start with monthly payment, not the big number, right? So when determining what that monthly payment might be, what specifically are you and your team looking at?
So without getting too deep into the weeds,
of course.
It all boils down to what's known as the debt to income ratio. Okay, and so that number for the lenders that we work with cannot exceed 50% on a conventional loan in most scenarios. FHA is a different loan program that goes up to 57%. But let's just go the conventional route. If debt to income ratio cannot exceed 50%. What that means is if your monthly income is $10,000 a month, that means all of your debts combined cannot exceed $5,000, 50%. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, your monthly income is $10,000. We know your debts cannot exceed $5,000. We look at your credit report to see if you have any credit card debt, student loans, or car payments. We'll subtract that from the $5,000 number. So if those numbers combined add up to $1,000 of debts, that means that you now have $4,000 that you could allocate towards your monthly mortgage payment and your new housing payment. And so then we'll go say, okay, well, that's your max, a $4,000 property in X town, what you're looking in when we look at those taxes, the insurance, your down payment, all that add up to a $600,000, a $700,000, an $800,000 house, right? And so we'll show them the numbers, show them the max, and they might turn around and say, whoa, okay, great. It's good to know that I could afford up to $4,000. That being said, because it doesn't take into account your utilities, the maintenance, right? Your child care. All those things do not get factored in to their debt to income ratio. And so that's why we have to reverse engineer. Okay, well, yes, your income is 10 and you could afford up to a $4,000 a month housing payment. But based on everything that we just discussed, great, you're comfortable at a $3,000 a month payment. That equates to a house worth X. And now we go circle back with you, the realtor, and say, okay, hey, David, we spoke to XYZ client. They're comfortable with a payment of up to $3,000, which in Glastonbury, Connecticut, where they're looking, equates to a home price of $400,000, whatever it may be. And so that's how we reverse engineer everything to find that special number.
Now, does that, so this is what, when I hear people say DTI, that's what they mean?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
And so does that debt to income ratio include something like property taxes?
Yes. So what it'll include from the housing side, it's known as PITI, right? So principal and interest, taxes, insurance, and then if you're putting less than 20% down, it'll be your PMI, and if it's a condo, it'll include your HOA dues as well. So that is included in your DTI calculation, in addition to car payment, student loans, and credit card debt. And from those three things, it's not the total number that they're looking at, it's your monthly minimum payment.
Got it.
So all the time we hear, I have $400,000 of student loans, right? I got a PhD and I can never afford anything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, your monthly payment is only $500. So that's what they account for in that debt to income ratio calculation.
So let's use a real example. Is this why a client might be pre-approved for $400,000 in, let's say, Glastonbury, but only might qualify, and might qualify for $500,000 in, let's say, Coventry?
Spot on.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's why we always tell them, right? We give a rough estimate.
Yep.
And we always tell them, before you go and submit an offer, even if you go and see it, if it's approaching the higher end of your budget and of the amount we tell you, run it by us. Because we'll put it in, we'll adjust the numbers on the back end, we'll switch it from Coventry to Glastonbury or vice versa, and we'll say, hey, great, the taxes on this one are lower than before, you're spot on. Or say, hey, you know what, this one is a little out of the price range. You were looking at houses that had $1,000 a month in taxes. This one's $1,900, right? So that one pushes you a little bit out of the comfort zone. But that's why we always run the numbers. Right?
Got it.
Every single time an offer is made, we reconnect with them to run the numbers, make sure the DTI is still good.
So you alluded to this a little bit earlier, right? So there's the big pre-approval number, which is your max spending limit, and then there's the comfort zone. I mean, you're a homeowner, right, Jonathan? Yeah, exactly. So you understand, right? You might have a maximum, and you have a family, right? So do we always want to go up to our maximum because that's going to maybe put some other things at risk, or allow us to, or make us have to compromise on some other things? So how do you and your team help people determine, the difference between this is what I can afford maximum versus this is my comfort zone?
Yeah, so during that initial loan consultation, we really dive into that because everyone's scenario is a little bit different, right? And sometimes most people are like, whoa, I do not want to go anywhere near my max, understandably so for the reasons that you mentioned. But others, in few cases, are like, okay, I am due for a raise in a very short amount of time, or I'm due for a promotion, or hey, I'm graduating residency and becoming a full-time doctor. I'm going to get a big pay increase, and therefore, let's push the limits. So it depends on every scenario is a little bit different, but on that conversation, we walk them through, hey, this is what you're qualified for, but keep in mind, this isn't accounting for, like I said, utilities, maintenance, and then things that are not even related to the house, right? Your groceries, going out and having that extra spending money, right? It doesn't look at that. And on top of it, the debt to income ratio is based off of your gross income. So that's what you're saying, oh, well, you make $120,000 a year, $10,000 a month, so then you could afford up to $5,000. Some people are like, wow, well, after take home, I'm at $7,500 or whatever the number may be. So they're like, wow, that's actually nowhere near where I'm comfortable spending based on my net amount. So that's why we have that conversation. We dive into all the details. And, as I said before, everyone's scenario is different. And that's why it's really catered to them.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, we've heard the term before. We've been in real estate for a long time, right? The term is house poor. And the last thing the last thing I know I want to do, and the last thing I know you want to do, is set our clients up to be house poor, right?
Correct.
You know, if you're buying a $1.2 million home in Avon and it's 4,200 square feet, that's a lot of furniture to put in that home. And if I'm maxing out my budget just to acquire that house, and maybe there's some deferred maintenance on that house, maybe there's some work, maybe I'm relocating from another part of the country and I need to pay my movers and I need to buy all new furniture. This is all part of the equation that, you know, I've heard you help your clients out and talk about these very real decisions, and I know these are conversations that I have every single day.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So important. That's why looking at the big picture is so important. And once again, everyone's scenario is different.
Yeah.
Right.
So you talked about it already, right? We talked about principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and that's what we call PITI, and that's what comprises your monthly payment. When you have folks moving in from other parts of the country, because I know you work with people all over the country that are calling Connecticut home.
Absolutely.
What's their reaction when they see some of our property taxes, and how does that kind of factor in to their decision-making process?
As you mentioned, people are moving from out of town. It comes up on almost every single conversation, right? And people are slightly sticker shocked by the taxes that are in Connecticut, but then we remind them of what they get for them and great schools and you know everything that's that comes with the good, with the higher taxes. But yes, I mean it plays a big strategy, and that's why they ask me my opinion all the time, and that's why I always remind them the importance of having a very good realtor on their team who's knowledgeable about the area, because people who are more price sensitive, they might want to look in some other areas, right? People come in, I want West Hartford, I want Glastonbury, I want this town. They look at the taxes, they look at the amount that they're qualified for, they're a little discouraged. But then when you say, okay, well, hey, you know what? Look 10, 15, 20 minutes away, and for West Hartford, you look in a Farmington or an Avon or a Granby or a Simsbury, where the taxes could literally be half. That pops up affordability, and therefore it opens up a lot of doors for a lot of people, right? And so that's why I always remind them how important it is being in the hands of the right person, and that's why obviously you and all of your background, your education, your knowledge, it's invaluable, right? It's something that seems so small, like, oh, well, taxes in this town, it's all... No, it's not, right? Every town is a little bit different, and it plays a big, big, big role in affordability.
Yeah, and that's also connected to, so it's not only the taxes, right, but it's also the sticker price of the house, right? We both know when we look in our market in particular, right, it's West Hartford, it almost always ranks at the top of a lot of people's lists, right? Where's the one place near Hartford that you want to live? West Hartford, right? Niche.com just came out with their list last week, and West Hartford is number 2 in the entire state of Connecticut, best places to live.
Right.
So if we've got a buyer who's dead set on West Hartford, we have to think, like, what about West Hartford is it that you like? Do you like the public utilities? Do you like the great schools? Do you like the more densely populated suburban urban setting? Right. And if that's the case, right, we can find some other maybe more cost-effective towns that have a lot of those amenities, right? And if it's more, I just care about the schools, I want my kids in the best schools, well, guess what? In Hartford County, one of the things is we have tons of towns that have fantastic schools across a wide range of price points. And this is why having conversations with your realtor, and one of the things about you, Jonathan, that maybe not everybody knows is you're a local guy, right? You're born and raised right here in West Hartford, so you kind of understand how the towns work, you understand how the schools work, and you have that little edge for those relocation buyers. You've got a more intimate knowledge than a lot of people who might be out of state or online.
Yeah.
So one of the things I get all the time is it's the 11th hour. I went with my client. We saw a great house as their dream home. And in their head, they said, my max is $500,000. Well, we've got a highest and best deadline. I call the realtor, I do my due diligence, and I find out, listen, if we go to 505 or 510, maybe even 515, this could be your house.
Right.
And oftentimes, they say to me, I can't go above $500,000. What would you say to that?
Yeah, so it goes back to understanding the importance of monthly payment versus purchase price, right? And sometimes when we hop on a call and we remind them, hey, every $10,000 of loan amount equates to $50 to $60 a month. Some people, they take a step back, they're like, wait, oh my God, okay. So you're telling me to go from 500 to 510, it's $50 a month? Yeah, that's it, to win the house.
Just don't go to Starbucks once a week,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And
you're sacrificing one Starbucks to get you in your dream home, right? And so that's why I think, once again, don't. They always say, hey, if somebody lists the house for $1, it'll end up in the same price point, or if you list it right around there, because people are gonna pay what it's worth, right? And so that's why understanding that the list price or where it is, there's so many strategies that listing agents have behind where they're listing it, how they're listing it, when, all that stuff. So don't worry about the list price and where it is relative to, oh, well, I don't want to go 80,000 above. I'm only comfortable going 60,000 above. That's all relevant. It's monthly payment, right? What is the monthly payment that you're comfortable with? And I think fortunately, when we remind them, hey, every $10,000 of loan amount, that's only, $50 to $60 a month. Then they're like, okay, we're not going to lose the house over $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, right?
Yeah. One thing you talked a little bit about earlier was debt and buying power, right? And I get a lot of people who are kind of kicking the tires. They come through an open house and they're, just poking around. And when I say to them, hey, where are you in the buying process? Just getting started? Have you been at it for a while? They said, I'm just looking. I'm not ready to buy yet. I got to clear up some debt first, right? And so earlier you talked about things like car loans, student loan payments, etc. If you're somebody who's thinking about buying in the next 6 to 12 months, like what advice would you have for them? Should they be paying down their credit card? Should they be paying off their student loans? What should they do first?
That is such a great question, and one that is relevant to so many people. And once again, every scenario is a little bit different based on their specific situation, but 99.9% of the time, people could afford to buy the house now versus paying off debt and waiting to pay it all off, then waiting to recoup their savings to then go for a down payment and closing costs. So that's why have that conversation now, because you may be spending money that you don't have to, that you could be reallocating to a down payment or to closing costs, right, to buy a house. Because once again, they only go off of the minimum monthly payment. So it's like, great, $500 a month, off of a $400,000 student loan, that's nothing, right? Like, I'm sure you could still qualify right now. So that's why people will prioritize, okay, well, let me pay down $100,000 a year for the next 4 or 5 years, then I could think of buying. It's like, no, I guarantee you could probably afford the exact same amount that you're looking for, anyway, without paying that down, right? And so that's why it's situational, but we'll go through the credit report with them and we'll say, hey, I see some debts here. We'll look at the statements. If it's super high, 20, 25, 30%, we will tell them, yes, prioritize paying this down. That being said, most of the time people want to buy sooner rather than later. They're just uneducated on how they could get there. And they think, great, I have to eliminate all debt in order to buy. Not the case.
Yeah. I mean, I get it all the time, right? People are, and we've all been there, right? I carried, lots of student loans after my time in college. And if you had told me when I was 24, 25 years old, hey, we should go buy a house, I said, no way, I got to clear up all this debt first.
Correct.
And the reality is, if I had gotten in touch with, a reputable lender who understands what's happening, they could have actually, quicken that process for me.
Definitely.
And I'd have 5 or 6 more years of equity under my belt.
Exactly.
You mentioned something just now that I find really interesting too, and I hear from a lot of buyers, which is the other side of that coin, which is your credit, right? Some people are saying, I can't buy yet because I need to repair my credit, right? I have some, maybe, something in collections from 5, 6 years ago, or something popped up on my credit. I have a couple late payments. Would you say the same thing to those people? Or something different?
Have the conversation. Once again, we have programs that could help with people who have lower credit than they would like, or we could refer them to people and literally help them. And we have programs where we could literally pay on their behalf in some instances to be able to get their credit repaired, to get their score up in a very short amount of time. So that's why it's so important. Speak to a specialist. We're not here just to help with mortgages, right? Like the true proper loan advisor that you're working with and loan partner should be able to help you on budgeting, of course on the loan amount and loan size, but going through credit, all that stuff to build a true proper financial model and layout for you. That's all what we do, right?
That's great. That's great. So this has been great, Jonathan. I really appreciate your time. Before we go though, I want to speak directly to that, that person walking through the open house this weekend who saw something pop up on Zillow and said, something, everybody tells me I got to buy a house. I'm going to go down and I'm going to check out 123 Main Street. What advice would you give to them when it comes to affordability specifically? What should they do first?
Have the conversation right now. That is the most important thing. Do not delay it. speak to a professional, right? We'd love to help you out. Go through, look at the numbers, know what you could afford, and if it's not as high as you want, we'll walk you through what it takes to get there, right? So just have the conversation. It could be the most valuable 10 minutes, of your life.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. So you heard it here, guys. If you're thinking about making a move to Central Connecticut and you want to know everything there is to do, whether it's working, whether it's the best neighborhoods, the best hospitals, the best schools, you can click the link below, download my free relocation guide. And if you're thinking about making that move even sooner and you want to answer some questions and get knowledge straight from the source, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. And if you got lender questions, you want to know what you can afford, what you can't afford, what a property looks like in Avon versus Simsbury versus West Hartford versus Farmington, give Jonathan at Atomic Mortgage a call. He'll be happy to help you out. Thanks so much for watching. Cannot wait to see you on the next one. And be sure to hit that bell for notifications and subscribe so you can be the first to learn about everything that's happening in the Central CT real estate market. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.